Let's move the conversation onto Jadon Sancho and Manchester United in general. And I know we want to touch on Harry Maguire too from last night. Mark Augie, we were talking about this before we came on. But start with Sancho. There are reports now that have just come about that obviously the drama behind the scenes that Sancho is actually on time. He's being lied about report times to training. There's all that going on. He took down his social media post. It was kind of a shot back at Ten Hag. He took that down yesterday. There's a lot of drama here. I start with you, Mark, in terms of the drama around the player right now. Is it untenable, or the club, are they able to find some peace, and will we actually see him even included in the squad and on the pitch this weekend?
Well, I think the first thing that we have to say is that he's taken that tweet down. So I think it was about 8 or 9 days later. That is a good starting point, or it is the starting point. He had to take it down. So that suggests that Sancho is prepared to at least sit down with Ten Hag and discuss what happened. But I think it's very difficult for Sancho because he's not been playing well for 2 seasons. So whether he's back in the squad this week, he hasn't been fit. He hasn't looked fit. He hasn't been performing very well. So he may have to accept that he's going to be maybe a while before he gets back in. But saying that, United have personnel problems because Anthony has been kind of stood down by the club until off-field matters are resolved or otherwise. So Sancho, for me, I think the fact that we've got 4 months to the next transfer window, he does have a chance. Everybody's got a chance because the time is on his side. Other issues might come up, fitness issues in terms of suspensions, and he might have to play. But I do think that he has to show some contrition, I think, to Ten Hag, because you can't go out in public on Twitter or X, as it's called now, and call out your manager. Now, the reports that circulated suggesting that the times he has to report to training have been misunderstood or misconstrued, or the two sides have different stories. We don't know. I mean, that sort of thing, when it comes out, suggests that it's coming out from the Sancho camp rather than the United camp. So I'm sure the United side will have their say on that. So you have to treat those reports with caution, in the sense that if it's only coming from one side, then what is their agenda? What is the benefit of that story coming out? But to answer your question, Sancho does have a future at United if he's prepared to knuckle down and accept that he was in the wrong. Because, like I say, they've got 3 to 4 months to the next window and he might have to play. If this was January with a month to go, then I think he'd have been moved on. But football's funny, There's lots of players that have been on the way out and come back. So I think you always got to leave that door open for Sancho. But I do think that he's left himself a lot to do because his performances right from the outset haven't been good enough. So United don't look at him as a player that can win games and be a big player for them.
Stevie, what do you make of how would you handle, or what do you make of the management of the player as one thing? And I know you're supposed to ask back-to-back question, but ask you a second question too. If you actually are playing him now with Anthony's situation, can he play on the right? Like, how would he factor, or will he factor on this team on the field?
Well, first of all, what an absolute disaster to be in the position where you've got a guy who seemingly can't turn up in time for anything, and you're going to have to rely on him, and you're Manchester United. What an absolute disaster scenario that is for the coach. I mean, in Ten Hag's initial little bit in the paper, in my opinion, is designed to wake this kid up. But as I said, if you've got a guy that can't get out of bed to go to training, what chance have you got of becoming a proper Manchester United player and being a guy and being the player that costs 100 million? I wouldn't put a penny on this thing working out. I really wouldn't. From a coaching point of view, listen, needs must. And if you're stuck in a situation, you're going to have to swallow some crow to a certain degree to try and get him back on side, because it's going to help you individually, but it's also going to help the team. And if you're lucky and the guy turns out all of a sudden gets his act together and becomes a professional, then you might get something out of it. But right now, I wouldn't put a penny on this guy performing for Manchester United. And as I started with, if you've got to rely on a Jadon Sancho who can't get out of bed in the morning, in fact, Aubameyang comes to mind. Look at Aubameyang. Nobody's disagreeing Aubameyang's not got ability, but I'll tell you what, he goes from team to team and he does the same thing. Sancho looks as though he could be the same sort of guy. So, hey, if I'm a Man United fan, I ain't got my hopes too high.
Can I just add to that? I mean, listen, it was an international break, and he wasn't in the international squad, so he has free time. But he was pictured in New York with Aaron Wan-Bissaka at a party of an NBA star at the weekend. So, Aaron Wan-Bissaka is playing well for Man United. No issues. Got a week off. If you're Jadon Sancho, I mean, Steve, you might have a view on this. If you're Jadon Sancho, you've got a week off, and you've just been bombed out of the team, and the manager's had a go at you. Would you go to New York and go to a party, Stevie?
I'll tell you what you would do. You go, you know what? I'm going to come in every day to the training ground and work hard and show everybody that I mean business. That's what a professional would have done. That's what somebody who's gotten the wake-up call would do. Somebody who's gotten the wake-up call doesn't get on a flight to New York and goes to a big fancy charity party or whatever it may be. If you've got the message, you stay at home, you get your bed early, you get up early, you get in the gym, you get running, you do what you need to do in order to get in the team, turn around the opinion of you. But clearly, no, he goes to New York. I mean, really.
Yeah, not this. The optics of it are terrible. Not to mention all the other stuff going on. It's just not the right move.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.